Welcome to the 22nd chapter of the book of Acts. We're continuing with Paul. He is now taken outside of the temple and being beaten, and the Romans are coming to find out what all the commotion is about. And we're continuing in verse 1. It says, men, brothers, Adelphi. We have the city of brotherly love. Philadelphia. Adelphia comes from that. Brotherly love, brothers. And pateros, fathers. We have paternal. Acousate mu. Here, acoustics. My apologias, apology, a defense to you now. And hearing that in the Hebrew dialect, dialecto, he called out to them, the more they made rest. The dialecto is a language. Tongues, I have also used the word dialect because it's talking about known languages. The tongue is actually a muscle in the mouth, and it's used in other ways as a figure of speech. In verse 3, and he says, I indeed am a man, a Jew, being born in Tarsus of Cilicia, but being reared in this city by the feet of Gamaliel. Gamaliel is the Greek pronunciation. The feet, the podos, tripod. So he's claiming now that he was raised at the feet of Gamaliel. Let's go to the internet and we'll see about this Gamaliel. There it is. There is Gamaliel the elder, who was his father. This is Simeon B. Gamaliel, the son. He wrote many tracts in the Mishnah. I have a Mishnah right here. You can pick one up, Oxford Press by Danby's translation. And one of the major things that Gamaliel says in the Mishnah that I find interesting is in Megillah 1:8 on page 202. It has the books too, they have only permitted to be written in Greek, says Rabban Simeon B. Gamaliel. Of course, it's outside of they're written in Hebrew originally, but the translation. So he was familiar with the Greek Septuagint, which we are studying, and he wrote that the Septuagint was accepted to be translated. It's the only other language that was accepted. Of course, New Testament was written completely in Greek. So Paul is at the feet of this Gamaliel. You can read more about Gamaliel in Wikipedia there. Interesting. He was being instructed according to the exactness of the paternal law. Being zealous of God, as all of you are today. Zelotes. Z is a transliteration. One who persecuted this way. The way, it's called the way. It was also called the way in 9:2 and 19, verse 9 and 23. It was the way. It was like a method that they were doing. They were following these things, and that's what they were called. And they were also called Christians. And he persecuted the way, he says, unto death. So some people died, like Stephen. Binding and delivering up into prisons both men and women. As also the chief priest bears witness to me, and all the council of elders, the presbyterion, by whom also epistolas, letters, the epistles of Paul, letters, by whom also letters, having received, Paul received them from the elders, I went to the brothers in Damascus for leading also the ones at that place being bound into Jerusalem, that they should be punished. So this is Paul's confession to these people, telling them that he was sent to take these people and be punished. And it happened to me in going and approaching to Damascus around midday, suddenly from out of the heaven, Uranus, the planet, suddenly from out of the heaven flashed about phosphorus is the derivative, a light. God is light. Jesus, it says in the first chapter of the book of John. And light was one of the earliest things that was created out of darkness. And God was the light. So when God, it says that Jesus was, from the beginning, was there. So when light appeared, it was basically Jesus in a form of rays, and now later taken a physical form. And he saw this light, a fit amount around me, periphery is a derivative, something around, border around. And I fell onto the ground and heard a voice saying to me, phonies, a phone. So he heard a voice. Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? And I answered, Who are you, O Lord? And he said to me, I am Jesus the Nazarene, whom you persecute. And the ones being with me indeed saw a light, and became thrown into fear, the phobia. But they heard not the voice of the one speaking to me. Now let's go also to Acts 9:7. And in Acts 9:7, it says, but the men journeying with him stood dumb, hearing indeed the voice, but viewing no one. So this is interesting, because a lot of people use this as a contradiction to each other, and it is, from the way you look at it, it is a contradiction. But but who wrote this book? It was Luke. Luke was not the eyewitness. Luke heard it probably from Peter, as far as we can tell. He was a friend of Peter. And Luke says right here, but the men journeying with him. So he's in the second person. It's not me, but with him, with Paul. And they stood dumb, hearing indeed the sound. So voice and sound for this phonies, it could be either one. Sometimes it could be a sound, because it uses it in many ways, like a drum sound. So in other places it would be a voice. To me, we'll go back here in a second. We'll show you what I think is the key, and that is of the one speaking to me. So I believe they heard a sound, but not the voice of the one speaking to Paul. That's how I explain it. You can go read all kinds of commentaries, I'm sure, and find your own way. Having a little trouble with the trackpad here. Got back here now. Trackpad battery went dead. Wouldn't you know it, right in the middle? But anyway, it says that they heard not the voice of the one speaking to me. They heard something probably from what it says earlier. And I said, What shall I do, O Lord? And the Lord said to me, Having risen up, go unto Damascus, and there it shall be told to you concerning all of which is arranged to you to do. And as I looked not upon anything because of the glory of that light, being led by the hand by the ones being with me, I came unto Damascus. Basically, he was blinded, and he saw the glory of the light. So it wasn't just a bright light, but there was a glory to it. Whatever that glory is, it gives you the idea of something being beautiful, I think. And so he was blinded for a time, and he was led by the hand by the ones came with him. And a certain Ananias, a pious man according to the nomon, law, astronomy, borne witness to by all the ones dwelling in Damascus, the Jews dwelling in Damascus, having come to me and having stood by, said to me. So apparently they knew who this person was that he's speaking to down in Jerusalem. And this man had a good standing with the people. They may not anymore after he became a Christian, but they knew he was a pious man. O brother Saul, Look up. And I, the same hour, looked upon him. Ora, hour, is a transliteration. And he said, the theos, theos, theology, derivative, the God of our fathers handpicked you to know his will, and to behold the just one, and to hear the voice from out of his mouth. So Paul was an eyewitness. The eyewitnesses to Jesus that wrote and said that we saw this, if you took it to court, there would be numerous eyewitnesses. Just if you took the eyewitnesses that are written here in the Bible that saw all the 12 disciples, well, not the ones that actually wrote would have been Matthew. Mark saw, at the end, he saw when he was taken out of Gethsemane, he probably saw him raise. And John, his brothers James and Jude, and Peter wrote. And now here we have Paul who saw him. So there's 7 people that actually we have the writings today that they say they had seen Jesus and rose from the dead and all these things. That would be enough. 2 people and 3 would be enough to convict anybody. And here they're saying this. So people today, this is all a big story. Well, yes, it's a story, but it's backed up by eyewitnesses. And all these eyewitnesses, if they were lying, why would they lie about not lying, which is what Jesus was teaching? It doesn't make any sense. But we'll continue anyway. And it says, for you will be a witness to him, Jesus says, to all men of what you have seen and heard. The man that he went to see. And Ananias says, for you will be a witness to him, to all men of what you have seen and heard. And now, why be about to? Having arisen, be immersed, and wash off your sins, calling upon the name of the Lord. This is what Ananias tells him, and he's telling the people that this is what he told them, and that apparently he was baptized in the name of the Lord, completely changed from being a man who was out to kill the Christians to somebody that has joined them. And it happened to me in returning unto Jerusalem. Now he's mentioned he's going back into Jerusalem. And my praying in the temple, there took place in me a change of state. An ecstasy is a change of state. Ecstasy we have as a derivative. So he was in the temple back in Jerusalem now, as far as his relating this to the people in the speech. And he says, and beholding him, saying to me, hasten and go forth quickly from out of Jerusalem, for they will not welcome your testimony concerning me. And I said, O Lord. So here he's saying he's beholding Jesus in the temple. And he's saying to him, hasten and go forth quickly from out of Jerusalem, for they will not welcome your testimony concerning me. And I said, O Lord, they know that I was casting into prison and flaying against the synagogues of the ones believing upon you. And when the blood of your witness Stephen was poured out, also I myself was standing by and assenting with his removal, guarding the garments of the ones doing away with him. So here we had the prophecy early by Agabus, but if he goes there, these things are going to happen. And here Jesus is now talking to him and saying basically the same thing. Hasten and go quickly from Jerusalem, for they will not accept this. And then it continues in, down in the... And he said to me, go, for I shall send you unto the nations. As Jesus in the temple is saying this. And they heard him until this word. And they lifted up their voice, saying, take such a one from the earth, for it is not fit for him to live. Because he mentioned the nations, and they feel like they're the only ones that are meant to hear God's word. A pride that the Jews had. They've already crucified the Christ, didn't want to hear him, and so now they have this attitude of anybody else except them is incapable of having God contact them or communicate with them, or for them to even pray or belong to this God that they have. And of their crying out and tossing their garments and throwing dust into the air, era is derivative. That's where we get the word air from the Greek. The commander bid him to be led into the camp, having said, investigate him with whips. So now they ran up to that fortress of Antonio. They're going to tie him and whip him and find out what's going on. That we should know for what reason thus they sounded out against him. And as they stretched him forward with the straps, Paul said to the centurion standing, is it allowed to you to crack the whip on a Roman man, anthropology, a derivative? And hearing, the centurion came forward to report to the commander, the heliarcho, Chilia is 1,000 and ruler. This is a commander, saying, well, look to what you're about to do, for this man is a Roman. So he's a Roman. Let's go down to the internet again, and I have a link to the rights of the Romans. In Wikipedia, the right to vote in the Roman assemblies, the right to stand for civil or public offenses, and it has all these things. A Roman citizen could not be tortured or whipped, nor could he receive the death penalty unless he was found guilty of treason. You can read all this at your leisure, but this is what it's talking about. And having come forward, the commander said to him, tell me if you are a Roman. And he said, yes. And the commander responded, I by a great sum acquired this citizenship. Polition, the politics is a derivative. And Paul said, but I even was born to it. Then immediately, the ones being about to investigate him abstained from him. They were getting ready to whip him, holding the whip, and all of a sudden they stopped and went back. And the commander also feared, realizing that he is a Roman, and that he was tied up by him, so he wasn't even able to be tied up if he was a Roman citizen. Rome had a lot of power, and they knew how to use it. And the next day, wanting to know safely why he is charged by the Jews, he loosed him from the bonds and bid the chief priests to come in all their Sanhedrin. So he wants to find out, so he lets Paul loose and tells the Jews to come up and to tell him what's going on. And leading down Paul, he stood him among them. I guess he meant he was free to go back to the Sanhedrin, the people that were accusing him. We'll continue this narrative in 23:1 in the next chapter, and hope you'll join us, and God bless.